the Sunday school are listening to this and they're smiling anyway. He pointed out that Queen Anne, that was his time, is above, on her throne, Anno, above, whereas the cat is Cato, below. And in St. John's Gospel, Jesus is always he who comes from above, and his teachings about heavenly things, unlike the Pharisees, who are from below and only think in earthly terms. So the wine at the wedding represents the joy which comes from above. The water symbolizes materialistic religion. But water can be turned into wine. And so this leads us to think about baptism and Holy Communion. How our baptism in the waters of the font entitles us to go to the altar and to share in the Holy Communion of the Lord's body and blood. And wine is a symbol of the love of God poured out upon the cross. Now, this is what St. Paul was referring to in that second lesson, when he said that the cross of Christ was a stumbling block to the Jewish people. That is because in the Old Testament it says, cursed is he who hangs upon a tree. In other words, if one is crucified, then he is utterly forsaken by God. Now I know what you're thinking. What's coming to your mind are the words of our Lord upon the cross, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Remember, the Lord was steeped in the teachings of the Old Testament. And at that very moment when the Son of God died upon the cross for us, he was filled at that moment, that very moment, with the sin of the whole world. And the sinless one was full of the sin of the world. He was paying the price, and God had to look away. That's why he says, why have you forsaken me? Because the great work of redemption was made upon the cross for the whole world, and it's a stumbling block to Jews. And what did Paul say? And it's absolute nonsense, folly, silliness to Gentiles. In other words, to the people of the world who try to think about earthly philosophy, who try to answer the world's problems with man's knowledge and man's wisdom. And so the cross is absolute nonsense to the earthly minded person. What does it mean? What's it all about? It's a stumbling block to Jews and folly, foolishness to the earthly minded thinker, the Gentile, the Greek, if we might put it that way. And so at the marriage feast in Galilee, in Cana in Galilee, the Lord is kind of turning all this on its head. And he's saying, these water jars are no longer needed for the rites of purification. They're going to be filled with wine, the new wine of the New Testament. That wine which will become the blood of our redemption, the blood of Christ poured out upon the cross, in which we share through our baptism, through the waters of baptism, in which we share week by week each time we make our Holy Communion. It's a heavy subject, I'll admit, this theology, but it need not be that difficult to take it on board, because our faith is a social religion. It's a societal religion. It involves society and community. It's not just an individual with their own individual relationship with God. The Jewish faith is a corporate religion. The Christian faith is a corporate religion. It involves each other. So today, when we think of that manifestation of Christ in the turning of the water into wine, let us remember our roots, where we came from. We came from the old covenant. We are children of the new, but we have our roots in the Old Testament. And we must value and read the Old Testament, and value it and treasure it, but read it with the eyes of the new. So let us give thanks to God that the water was turned into the choicest of wines, and may God bless us today in this season as we think of these epiphanies. Amen.